started as any normal day in the city of Bloomington, Indiana, a college town not yet used to tragedy. When thousands of Koreans were headed to church, 9 people were shot and 1 was killed. For what? And I ask that question, for what? Because this race-motivated shooting was sparked by something, but nobody knew what. The man at the center of the 1999 Independence Day tri-state shooting, which occurred in Chicago and then swooped all the way down to Carbondale, Illinois to Bloomington, Indiana, was none other than then 21-year-old Benjamin Nathaniel Smith, who was born on March 22nd of 1978. And he was born and raised in Wilmette, Illinois. He attended high school at New Trier Township High School, and during his time at the school, he accosted to Skokie, Illinois, where a police officer had pleaded him guilty on 2 counts of misdemeanor battery, which was not a good start for the young high schooler as he was getting into a life of and later hate. He transferred to Mary D. Bradford High School in Kenosha, Illinois for his senior year after being kicked out of multiple schools. He did not pose for a photograph in his senior yearbook, but in his class quote, he did write in the yearbook the term "sic semper tyrants," also known as "thus always to tyrants," a quote said in the Civil War. After graduating from high school, Smith attended the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, where he dropped out of school in 1998 after having several conflicts with campus authorities. After dropping out of the school, he then transferred to Indiana University in the town of Bloomington, Indiana. Police were later reported to have said that Smith was known for passing out hate-filled flyers around campus against Jews, blacks, and Asian people on the university campus. He was also one of the subjects in a public broadcasting documentary shot in 1998, and he was also, later after this crime, featured in one of the biggest crime documentaries in American history.
In an interview last year, Smith defended what he called his right to free speech.
People call our literature hate literature, but all it really is it's truth that reflects on the minorities negatively. I mean, it's the facts. You can't argue with the facts.
In the affluent suburb north of Chicago where he grew up, a high school classmate said the quiet-spoken Benjamin Smith never revealed any racist views.
We had Jewish students and Asian students in our advisory in school in large numbers, and there were never any problems of any kind.
But his senior year Latin motto, "Sic semper tyrannis," thus always to tyrants, may have indicated his choice of heroes. It was the same phrase on Timothy McVeigh's t-shirt when he committed the Oklahoma bombing.
I'm not blind. I can see that people of color do create a lot of problems for our country.
Smith was a follower of the white supremacist organization known as Creative Movement, which is a devoted disciple of the group's leader, Matthew Hale. 2 days after Hale was denied a license to practice law in Illinois, Smith loaded his light blue Ford Taurus with guns and ammunitions out and set to kill on a tri-state shooting spree. Now we have to go to the 2 days of July 2nd to July 4th of 1999. It was Independence Day weekend in Chicago and in Bloomington, Indiana, where a lot of people were celebrating the 4th of July festivities, maybe cooking a burger with their family and friends, playing outside and firing fireworks, which a lot of fireworks were being fired that night. Not just in the air with people oohing and aahing at the scene, but it was also reported that Bloomington police were on high alert for not only Smith, but also Matthew Hale. But during the events, we have to start in Illinois near the campus of Northwestern University, where on the evening of Friday, July 2nd, 1999, Smith shot and wounded 9 Orthodox Jews in a drive-by shooting in the West Rogers Park neighborhood in Chicago.
The shooting spree began at 8:20 in the West Rogers Park section of northeast Chicago. The gunman's first apparent targets were 6 Orthodox Jews in separate locations as they walked in their neighborhood. At 8:52, the gunman fired the fatal shots at Ricky Birdsong in nearby Skokie, and 30 minutes later, at 9:20, the gunman aimed and missed 2 Asian men traveling in a car in Northbrook.
Smith then shot and killed former Northwestern men's basketball coach Ricky Birdsong, an African-American basketball coach and one of the first in Northwestern history, in front of his 2 of 3 children.
This is not a gun problem. It is a heart problem. And only God and reading His Word can change hearts.
While they were walking outside Birdsong's Skokie, Illinois home. The next day, July 3rd, Smith then traveled to the University of Illinois Urbana and Springfield. Then he later went to Decatur, where he shot and wounded an African-American minister. And then, on Sunday, July 4th, his most tragic happening occurred. Smith had just shot and killed, up to this point, 2 different people. One in front of 2 of this man's 3 children, and another a respected minister. But now his road has taken him down south to Bloomington, Indiana, where he would later shoot and kill his most vulnerable victim. 26-year-old Woon Jun Young, a Korean graduate student studying in economics at Indiana University, was on his way to the Korean United Methodist Church, which is directly outside of the IU Bloomington campus, where Smith not only shot but missed another 9 people who were attending the church service that day, but also he was fleeing police in a high-speed chase on a southern Illinois highway before this had all started. So, in his mind, he was going crazy. He was new to Bloomington and to the church, which was established in 1981, as he was 26 years old and had just received a master's degree in economics from the University of Illinois at Carbondale. He was living at Meadow Park Apartments on Smith Road and was to start his doctoral studies at Indiana University that fall. It was the 4th of July. Fireworks were popping and maybe people were cooking burgers and that sort of stuff around town. But the 11 a.m. Mass at the Korean United Methodist Church was about to begin, and Kang had arrived early and settled in with a silent prayer. "I continued my praying," one of the churchgoers said, "but I could hear the sounds and it was clear something had happened." But those sounds were not just any sounds of fireworks, maybe set off early in the morning. These were gunshots, interrupted Yoo-Jung Kang's praying that Sunday morning. "I stopped my praying," she said, "and went out. And it happened already in front of our church. A beautiful young man. He looked like a boy, lying there on the ground. At first," she said, quote, "we could not understand what happened." The suspect later fled the scene, and Smith himself, in the middle of the night, with police already hot on his tail, but Smith would later twice in the head and crashed his automobile into a metal post. He would later shoot himself again, this time in the heart, and fatally. He was pronounced dead at a hospital in Illinois. Around 2,000 people attended Woon Jung Young's memorial service at the Indiana University Musical Arts Center on July 12, 1999, attended by U.S. Attorney General Janet Reno, who spoke at the memorial service. Later, the Indiana University community created a scholarship to honor Woon Jung, and every 4th of July, the Korean United Methodist Church holds a yearly church mass to remember Young, who was murdered on his way to the church service that day. Ricky Birdsong, the Northwestern University basketball coach's widow, established the Ricky Birdsong Foundation to, quote, arrest the growing epidemic of hate and violence in our society. The foundation holds a number of events in and around Evanston. The most well-known is the Race Against Hate, a 5K running event which is held in late June in Evanston, Illinois. The Race Against Hate race draws several thousands of runners. In 2009, for instance, a 10,000-meter running race was added in honor of the 10th anniversary of the Race Against Hate. As we mentioned, nearly 3,000 people had attended Jung's memorial service at the Musical Arts Center, with hundreds of people carrying lighted candles streaming out afterward and walking to the church to stand where Jung had been killed, whereas to remember him and to cry the far reach of violence and hate. Anti-hate signs appeared all around Bloomington afterwards, and even in the years since, screaming, "No hate, not in our yards, not in our town, not anywhere."